Hello and welcome to Eco Girl in a Modern World. My name is Shelly and my channel is dedicated to talking about ways to be more environmentally friendly in a modern context. We're going to keep today's video really brief. The subject matter is probably going to seem a little superficial, but I believe I actually ran into this issue recently, and I just thought it was important to mention, just in the context, especially when you're trying to buy clothes and jewelry secondhand, the importance of it. Now, I am working on more important topics in addition to this one. I was going to make today a kind of like a brief, just very quick video. Actually, today what had happened is I had attended one of my local fairs, and local fairs are a wonderful way to be green. They're not only a fun day, you get a chance to be out in the community, you get to see fun rides. I enjoyed some really great food. There were local farmers who had fresh popcorn. I had an orangeade, they had lemonade, they had lime spritz, and everything is just so fresh, with these vendors, and local produce and all sorts of wonderful things. But in addition, I got a chance to see all of the winners of the local photography contests, and I got to see the crochet, the art. I talked in a couple of videos ago about hobbies. I was really inspired in seeing some of the winners at my local fair, and I'm really excited. I got a chance to talk to local recycling companies about the locations that recycle materials, particularly like aluminum and plastic. So I was super excited to actually talk to representatives that had tables at the event. Also, I have a curiosity about, farm equipment, and I know that sounds strange. It's just there is something going on with John Deere regarding the kind of the AI and the satellite kind of tracking, just like when you buy a new car that has all the bells and whistles, a lot of farming equipment has a lot of like screens and sensors and things like that. And there's something called a right to repair. It's like same thing with your car. If something breaks, especially with farming equipment, you should be able to, or have the right to, try to repair the equipment yourself. But some companies almost like trade secrets, because there is technology that's embedded that tracks and gives you measurements for things. They don't want you to see how that technology works. It's kind of like trade secrets, but then it puts the farmer into a position where they have to pay a lot of money to just fix what is, you plug something into an iPad and pay $800 for that. So I was curious about that, where there are alternatives to that, and I got a chance to actually see a couple of other manufacturers that talk about that. So it was a great trip. I got a chance to really kind of get my foot in the door with a few other topics that'll be coming down the pike, and I'll actually post a video about that right to repair issue in the description box below if you want to get a preview of what I'm talking about there. But it's going to be very important, especially in these times of how to find a right balance between having everything technology based versus just being able to, if it came down to it, being able to plow your field with the equipment that you have without having being impacted by when one piece of the technology stops working. And that is that plays into a lot of data use and water and making sure that the finances, especially in farming, that you can always afford to have the best output that is the easiest on the environment. So this was a couple of things that I got a chance to kind of get started on today, and I'm going to be really excited. Plus, again, it was a really great time. It was just a fun time, and that's always a fun event to have at the end of the summer, beginning of fall. September 26th is the official first day of fall. Now, on to the subject of the video. What I had run into recently is that I am coming up on my birthday at the beginning of October, and what it is I'm a jewelry girl. I'm a Libra girl, so I like pretty jewelry. I always like to buy secondhand. But it's funny, I always thought that I kind of knew what my ring size was, but it's amazing how in this day and age, just like clothes are becoming more one size fits all, and and there's different body shapes. So of course, we've talked about that in this channel before. It's like, okay, why is everything becoming so generic? It doesn't feel very personalized. And that's part of the productivity that you see. It's not going to be couture that's fitted directly to you, but the cut and the way that it fits is important. And the same thing goes for jewelry. And what happened was, I noticed that I had seen this pretty ring that I looked at. I didn't, and not intending on buying it anytime soon, but the ring sizes were more in European sizing. Like it was like 42, 43, 44, 45. And when you looked at the size chart on it, the size chart indicated that kind of half and quarter sizes. So like 5.75, 6 and a quarter, and so forth. And it really got me thinking, because the way that a ring fits is really, really important. If you're I remember when I got my class ring, I've always been attracted to really quality ring makers, especially if you are in high school or in college. When you go to a company like Balfour, Balfour, they guarantee their rings for life. Like if a stone falls out, or if you have any damage, or if you need it sized, those ring companies will guarantee it for life. I remember, and it was actually with this ring, when I first went and had the ring sized, the woman was extremely attentive. They actually had a ring sizer. Like she tested different sizes on the ring. She goes, okay, which finger are you wearing this on? And then she really was conscientious about, she goes, I could size this as a 6, but she goes, I'm going to go 6 and a quarter. That way, if you're swelling or if your weight fluctuates, it'll stay in a good zone. And it's one of those things, this is the best fitting ring that I have to this day. And you want to make sure that it can get over your knuckle, but if you're having, if you're swollen, or if you gain a little weight, lose a little weight, that it's not either falling off or difficult to get off. I ran into it where and where this plays into it is that those European sizes that we were talking about, a lot of stores will go with a 43, and they'll call that a 6. But really what it is it's a 5 3/4. It's a little bit smaller than a 6. But it feels a little deceptive, because they're telling you, oh, this is a 6, but I can promise you, if it's 5 3/4, that's too small. If I swell in the slightest bit, that ring is going to be stuck on my finger until the swelling goes down, or I take a aspirin or something to thin my blood. So it's like, I feel like from a sales perspective, it shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't be deceptive in what you're telling people. I actually even called that company and said, look, when you tell people that the 43 is a 6, that's not correct. And I got kind of like a little bit of a nasty response. They kind of came back and said, well, that is a 6. That's how it fits. And I'm like, no, it's not. I've tried on those rings before, and it acts like a 5 3/4. And this isn't to be snobby. It isn't to say, hey, why aren't you being correct about this? It's just, that's important. If you're buying secondhand, or if you're buying new, just like we say here, it's okay to buy new but you're going to be buying new with the expectation of wearing that garment or that jewelry 30 times or more. You really want to get the best wear out of it. And if it's too tight, or if it doesn't fit on the finger that is most comfortable for you, you're not going to wear it. And that kind of plays into the cycle of waste and not using things to their full potential. And so, and going back to Balfour, I actually, on my graduation day, I tripped and fell. And trust me, I had some worn out shoes on, and I tripped and I fell, and I bloodied up my knee, and I scraped up the back of my ring. And it was so funny. I had filled out, when I sent the ring in to be repaired, and they were going to charge me $30 to buff out the scratches. So I sent them a money order, and there was this little place on it that said, okay, can you tell us the reason why, reason for the repair? And I said, I was honest. I just said I fell on graduation day. And it was amazing. They sent me my money order back uncashed. They said, no, don't give it. We'll repair this for you at no charge. They were extremely kind. And my ring looked like brand new. I was so upset. It was like a brand new ring. And, I actually got a signet style because that's my grandfather was a teacher of teachers. He actually taught adults, and I went back to college later in life. So it always is just a homage to him. He believed that anyone could learn, that there's never a timeline on when you can go back to school and achieve things. So this ring was always really special to me. It cost me a lot of time and energy and money to go back to school. I call my degree my firstborn. So to have my ring polished and to have it with a good jewelry company is wonderful, but in addition, it's the best fitting ring that I have. It fits me perfectly. If it didn't fit me perfectly, I probably wouldn't wear it as much. But this brings us back to the subject of today. One thing that is good to invest in, and again, I don't encourage buying a whole lot of plastic. You might be able to find one in stainless steel, or but this is I think they call this a Mandel, Mandel, but it's a ring Mandel, and basically what it is you put the ring on the slider, and it'll tell you what size it is. And that's actually how I could tell what size this ring is that I kind of actually it's a little bit more than a 6 1/4, but let's see here. Can you see that? Yeah. But it's like and it was funny when this arrived in the mail. I went ahead and I pulled out some of the rings that I wear. Like, I pulled out all of my comfortable rings, the ones that fit really, really well. And it's amazing how I thought a majority of them were a size 6, just because a size 6 can fit on my left hand or my right hand. But it turned out that I have an array of different sizes of rings in my jewelry box. And it's funny, the one that is universal is not a true 6. It's usually 6 1/4 that fits good on either hand. 6 fits pretty good, but 6 would be more of my left hand versus my right. And then I had a few rings that I thought were a size 7, and a size 7 fits really good on my middle finger or on my forefinger if I'm kind of being dramatic. I have some rings that I wear on like middle finger or thumb and stuff like that. But it was amazing. I went through and I know this sounds kind of stupid. It's like, okay, you're an environmentalist. Why are you talking about this? But it's kind of true. Just like if you find a pair of pants that don't fit you well around the waist, or they're too tight in the hips, or if they don't fit right in the proportions for your body shape. Same thing for jewelry, especially rings. I could also say that it's a lot easier to do this with necklaces as well. But of course, with necklaces, test the metal. One good way to make sure there's no lead in it, because a lot of cheaper necklaces have either lead or cadmium in it, which are not good chemicals. But you can always test for lead by taking a Q-tip and dipping it in a little bit of rubbing alcohol. And if the rubbing alcohol turns kind of a greenish color, that means that lead is typically present. There's also other ways that you can look up online, but with necklaces, you can there are charts that you can see that you can kind of tell when you put it on, is it a 16-inch, 18-inch, 20-inch, if it's more pendant length and stuff. But I think that's, so when it comes to jewelry sizing, I think that is an important thing to look at. You don't necessarily have to go with one of these, but you could find one, you know, again, stainless steel, or, you know, I've seen wooden ones, but they're expensive. But to have that, you know, just as a way to help measure out things, I think is really helpful, because again, if something fits really well, there's a better chance that you'll wear it more often. And when you wear something more often, that's when it's going to become much more green. But all right, we're going to keep it short and sweet. I hope this was helpful. I know it's been, you know, it's been very busy for a lot of people right now. There's a lot of things going on in the world. And again, we're going to be talking about some of those subjects coming up. But, you know, it is nice to kind of take a break and really kind of, you know, think about, you know, kind of take a little bit of a solace in, you know, shopping your closet, you know, taking pride in how you look, matching things, trying things out, just as a way to not only to get the best use out of your clothes, you know, to be more green, but also to be creative and kind of stoke that side of your brain, you know, especially when there's a lot going on in the world, you know, that you can kind of take a break and take your mind off. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what you see on this channel, I would be very honored if you'd like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.